as a coach, you look a little bit further as opposed to counting someone's reps. You look a little bit further as opposed to just putting someone through a gnarly workout and getting them to sweat. My focus is honestly so far from that. It's more, honestly, I'm working more towards that mindset space now, and it's really important to me because if you don't do the inner work, if you don't work from the inside out, you're never going to, reap the results that you want. And fat loss and all that sort of stuff, that body composition is a byproduct of doing the inner work first. If you don't get that right with your clients or as a whole, like if you're just on a journey, if you're not doing the inner work, you honestly, it won't emit on the outside. And that sounds really harsh, and a lot of people will go through a fat loss phase and haven't done the inner work, but that's sustainability of it. So my biggest outlook is, sustainable results for my clients and doing the inner work and focusing on their mindset and how they feel about themselves. When they look at themselves, what do they say to themselves? What's the first initial words that come to mind? And trying to get them to stray away from the fact that a certain number on the scale is never going to make them happy.
That was Adriana Verdino, and this is another episode of the Raw with Ollie McNicol podcast.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Raw with Ollie McNicol. Thank you for your patience.
Thank you. That's fine.
Gosh,
That's
that was an adventure in itself.
Yeah.
All right, again, thank you very much for being here.
That's okay. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, you're welcome. We've experienced a very interesting and exciting time together over the past couple of months.
Yeah. We have. It's been a whirlwind, a really, really awesome sort of adventure. And I'm just so pleased that I've met such incredible humans like yourself, and it's just been when we first met, I haven't actually met you before, but it's I've known you for ages, and just that hug and that embrace is so perfect. I love it.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I truly do feel that. It's something that is difficult to explain to just anyone, and really make people understand what we've been through and what we've experienced in such a short amount of time. That itself says nothing, but to us it means everything. But on that note, I want to go back to the very first call that we had together in those 60 days we're working together. Yeah. And the question that you asked me is now coming your way. Do you remember what it was?
Oh, goodness. Put me on the spot. What was the most euphoric moment? Was it that one?
There it is.
Oh, yeah.
To you, what was the most euphoric moment, either let me say that again. So what was the most euphoric moment of your life or in the last 60 days?
Oh, see, now I know what you meant by putting you on the spot. But most euphoric moment for me, especially in the last 60 days, I've had a lot of realizations and all that sort of stuff, but definitely the realization that I genuinely love my life. I could sit here and scream it to the rooftops at how much, and there's nothing super standout about it. It's not I'm not that being a billionaire is euphoric or anything like that, but just how content I am with my life, where it's at, where it's going, and who's in it as well. So I just feel so euphoric around that, and I'm so wholesome. It's just ridiculous. So
yeah,
definitely.
That in the last 60 days?
It's definitely been a lead up from the 60 days, I would dare say. But I think the whole cutting cords to our old self and being our higher self has definitely assisted with that. But I would definitely say the 60 days has made that the most euphoric sort of moment for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that for a second. So, yeah, because when you asked me, my answer to that question was having that experience of that visualization where you were cutting the cords with the younger self, and just entering that consciousness where you were literally looking your younger self in the face. It's not something that anyone really even thinks of as something that you experience in life. But yeah, as I mentioned, that was the most euphoric moment for me.
Yeah.
That experience was just, and it's something that it's a practice now because we've done it a few times, and it's something that you can do on a consistent basis, or rather whenever you feel as though you need to come to terms with something new or thank your younger self for something
Definitely.
that's only just been realized.
Yeah.
That
That's
was
huge, huh?
that was huge for me. Yeah.
I remember you saying that, and at that time I hadn't cut my cord, or I didn't really. This was like very beginning of Tom Clark, so yeah, I was like that was your euphoric moment, but I wasn't aware of like what that entailed, and now I do, and that's my euphoric moment, like cutting those cords with my younger self, and stepping into the most aligned version of myself now, and I'm like, yeah, I feel you, Ollie, I feel you.
Yeah, well, so I want to go back to, it's incredible hearing you say that now, because I want to go back to 2013, right? And you said in your own words that in that year you made a goal, previously to 2013, you made a goal to be a happier, healthier version of yourself. And I would love for you to speak to that a bit more and kind of tell us where your 2013 self, where 2013 Adriana was, what it looked like, and that contrast between then and now, because that's a huge statement and goal to make in life, and you've absolutely achieved that. But I really want to hear sort of how that sits with you now.
Yeah. I love that you've asked that as well, and my maths is really horrible, but I'm like looking back at 2013, I'm like, damn, that was ages ago. But yeah, it's pretty much when it all started, and it's weird to hear that in context, because it's been a while. It's been a really like long but huge process for me. In 2013, Adriana was a completely different person to who I am now, but still a beautiful person as well. So I live by the mantra that I never have any regrets in my life or anything like that, and I look back at her and with so much love, and I just want to hug her because of the pain and anger that she used to feel. So I guess 2018 Adriana was overweight for the first part. I was around 102 kilos, and just a very, I guess, angry and confused soul. I still emitted happiness and all that sort of stuff, and I was, quite bubbly and quite outspoken. Very outspoken, actually. I was always that. My biggest not mantra, but stigma was like I was always class clown, and I just wanted to be the funny girl at school, and I was. But I guess it was kind of a bit of a cover-up for my anxiety around how I felt around myself, and it was kind of just, me... covering up about how I actually felt, and using funniness and humour as, a big cover-up, as I wasn't very happy with myself amongst a lot of it. So I guess the whole health conscious thing came in. I was always the bigger girl at school, and not that I was ever ridiculed for it or anything like that, but it was just very obvious that I was the bigger girl. So I guess... growing up I went to an all-girls school as well. It was just very common for girls to just look at how others were eating and all that sort of stuff. And I'd say in 2013, the health conscious wasn't as big as it is now. Like, it wasn't a huge sort of community. But I was still very aware that I was the bigger girl, and that, in order to lose weight, something had to be done about it. And I guess, you know, I went through a lot of different phases and basically just started getting on a bandwagon. And I wasn't informed very well. I kind of just went amongst like social media sort of things and did what I thought and what I saw. But yeah, I kind of just went on this bandwagon and just kind of went to the gym every now and then, or got a personal trainer every now and then, and just started a journey in search of, I wouldn't say self-love. I don't think that's what it was looking for back then. I would definitely say just a, air quote, skinnier body. And yeah, it was just a big journey in terms of over the years. And through all of that, I would dare say a lot of it was, I don't want to say unhealthy, but it wasn't in a way that was conscious towards my body. You know, there was excess hours of cardio, very restrictive eating. And inevitably, you know, that got me to losing 42 kilos over that journey of time.
Mm-hmm.
And
how long was that?
I would say probably, 5 or 6 years. Mm-hmm. Like, I mean, where I am currently now, I'm 10 kilos up. So if we look back now, I've only lost 30 to 32 kilos. But yeah, it was a really big journey, and it entailed a lot. Like, it entailed, you know, restrictive eating, disorderly eating, like crazy amounts of cardio and working out, and yeah, very strange sort of periods of my life that led to where I was and where I am now. And you know, I'm in a good place now, but that's only been quite recently as well. Like, I've gone through quite a bit in terms of eating disorders and how I feel and look at myself, and the way that I speak about myself, and just, a lot of internal, I wouldn't say hatred, but it was just a very big internal battle between myself for a very, very long period of time. So it's been a huge journey, and I love the journey, but it's a very emotional journey for sure.
Yeah. I want to put a pin in, because you mentioned that at the moment it's only been 30 kilograms you've lost. I want to put a pin in that because obviously there are so many variables and people may not understand. They might hear 30 and think, well, that's not a whole lot, but we'll get to that because that's extremely important for everyone to understand, especially people who are or have experienced similar relationships with themselves and their weight and their body. But yeah, if you don't mind me asking, do you know what that stemmed from, those eating disorders? Do you know when it began? It began?
I would dare say, so the disorderly eating started when I was about, I would say 19. And that was, probably about 2 years into my fitness journey. And that's, I never looked at it as an eating disorder, and that's simply because I was very unaware of what eating disorders entailed. I knew what they were, but it just never occurred that I was going through one. And that's a very common occurrence with people who have eating disorders. It's not something that people pick out. It's because they kind of just put it to the shadows and they don't want it to be a light. But I would definitely say from like 18, 19 is when it started. The restrictive eating started, and you know, eating very minimal and feeling, you know, lean and feeling good in my body, but I was, you know, very stuck in a fight or flight mode. I definitely think it stemmed from, when I said like I wasn't ridiculed at school, I wasn't ridiculed at school, but it was definitely, you know, there were always comments that, you know, Adriana was the big girl, or like comments on what she was eating during lunch and all that sort of stuff. And funnily enough, like, my family, I was always called Big A, because I was the big kid, and I did a lot of inner work, and I didn't realize that was a stem for me until I realized that like as a kid I was actually called Big and Fat A, and A being for Adriana, but like that was pretty much my nickname as a kid, which sounds really horrible. And look, I love my family, I do, but. And I don't think they meant it in that way. But unconsciously, I think that really stuck with me. So yeah, moving forward, that's why I always felt the need to lose the weight. There was aspects that, because I wanted to be a healthier version of myself, but I also wanted to get rid of that that stigma and that name as well. So I definitely say that was where it stemmed from. The eating disorder, yeah, definitely came from the restrictive past of eating. And then, like, so my eating disorder was, I speak in past tense because it's gone.
Absolutely.
Was bulimia. So I had binge and purge. And I remember back, it was probably when I was 19 was my first purge, and it was at a birthday party, and I had eaten an excessive amount, and it was quite a frequent thing, and that's generally how binges happen. They are a huge amount of food in a short period of time. And look, binge eating and purging is very different for a lot of people, you know, whether, like, how people purge and all that sort of stuff. Mine was self-induced vomiting. So that was, you know, my version of purging. And I remember back to a birthday party, and I think this is generally, like, I can't remember, like, there may have been a previous time, but that's the first time I remember doing it, was at a birthday party. And I did, I self-induced vomited at that party. And I didn't think anything of it. I thought that was an easy way to excavate the food, basically. And then from there, in dribs and drabs, like, it was never super, super prominent, but it was always my way of escaping and getting rid of and expelling that excess food. And then over time, that basically became, you know, a really, really strong habit in my life, and something that I reverted to when I was stressed or upset or angry, and it just became really, really habitual in my life. And, you know, it came and went, but it was still extremely prominent for the most part. So I definitely, I would say probably last year and the year before that, so 2019, 2018 were the 2 years where it was most prominent in my life. And it was taxing, to say the least. It was extremely taxing on my body, and more so my mindset. It was something that was happening 3 to 4 times per week, a lot in secrecy, but something that, you know, my family knew about, but it was just a very touchy subject, and I didn't want to speak about it. And when I did, or when I was forced to, I would get extremely angry, restricted, and just, very closed off. So it was huge, and I always have to take, like, big breaths thinking about it, because I look back on that Adriana and I see such sadness, and how, like, scared and caught up she was in it, and how closed off from family and friends I became with it as well. So
Thank you. Far out. First of all, the power and the strength behind your words there, and the certainty that it's way, way in the past, and it's gone, is just, that's extremely empowering and beautiful. So, thank you. I did want to, I just wanted to touch on how you were being called Big A by those around you. Literally every single person around you, people at school were talking about the things you're eating and stuff.
Yeah.
It just cements who you were back then.
Yeah.
And obviously, like, what choice did you have but to be Big A?
Yeah,
that
exactly.
was you. Like, that was your identity. So that's thank you for sharing that.
It's okay.
That's incredibly it's incredible to see you now. And obviously it's not something that we think about anyone anyway, but to see someone performing at your level now, like mentally, physically, spiritually, is a really fantastic thing. And I'm so glad that you exist in this space, in this industry. And what a pleasure it is to have you here and speaking to those who truly could be in the absolute, like, deep end of it all. And I know that there are people out there. I know, you know, people are out there as well that are this would be hitting home. So first of all, thank you so much, and for expressing it with the power and strength that you have.
I think that's the most important part, is that, you know, if this can bring to light for someone who is keeping it in the shadows and wants to sort it out, because it's something that you will keep in the shadows for a really long time because it's scary. You don't want to admit it. No one wants to admit to an eating disorder, because you feel weak. You feel powerless from it. But if this can help anyone, you know, bring it to light and seek the right help, then yeah, I'm stoked. I'd be absolutely stoked.
I'm certain that it will. So I'm sure people would be wondering now, after hearing that, what sparked the change? What initiated the change from there, and when?
Yeah, so crazily enough, it has only been since I started with Tom Clark, which, you know, I owe a lot to the 60DR group and Tom himself, but it's always been something that I have actively tried to work on as well, but have always had lapses or relapses. And I think it really struck with me when we were asked in that group on the first or the second call is, what is something that your higher self wouldn't do? What is if you envisioned the best version of yourself, what would she not be doing that you're currently doing? And the first thing that popped to my head was, you know, binge and purge, because it was so consuming and it was just taking over my life. And it was also something that I was very secretive about. And it's something that I never told anyone, and the only people that knew were my mum and one of my close friends, Alessia. So not even my partner Tom knew at the time, and it was just something that I just kept in the shadows, and it was just felt like a dirty secret for a really, really long time, like 5 or 6 years. So yeah, for me it was just, that was my initial thought. And when, you know, we spoke about it in the group, that was huge for me. I mean, I hadn't spoken to anyone about it in 6 years, yet here I was just admitting it to 12 strangers at the time. I didn't know anyone, but it just felt really compelled to just let it out, because once it was out and once I, you know, said that I was going to let it go, that was it. I had to. And I was the first one, I'm not too sure if you were on that first call, but I was the first one to get on a live. We basically had to go in live feed and admit what our current self was doing that our highest version wouldn't. And when I said it, I was like, holy crap, like, this is it, like, let it out. You know, this is you finally letting it go. And part of me was like, okay, cool, like, you're just going to say it and then you're going to go and binge and purge later. Like, is that what's going to happen here? But the moment that I did that live and I put it out to the world and put it out to the group, it was like this overwhelming sensation of freedom. It was crazy because it just no longer felt like a really dirty secret anymore. It was just something that was out in the air, and I was open about it, and I felt like a human again, not this person that just had to hide and succumb to her eating disorder. So the moment I did that in the live, and then basically I did an Instagram post and I just told the world. I put it out to my 2,000 followers that I'm Adriana and I suffered with an eating disorder for 6 years of my life, and this is me freaking letting it go. Like, I don't want to do it anymore. And with that came a crazy response of just people who were either going through the same thing or were just so thankful that I had the power and I had the confidence to come out with it. And yeah, just that sensation of freedom, I think, was really what helped. Is that, you know, there are other people out there struggling, and the fact that I had a voice and I had the voice to come out and say that you are not alone, was really, really compelling for me and a lot of other people as well. So since then, I've just had, I don't even think about it anymore. And I'm not fearful that it's not that easy. Like, you know, it may not be that easy for some other people. But knowing that, I think the biggest part is knowing that it doesn't have to be a secret, and that it's not, you know, it doesn't make you any less of a person. It just makes you, like, you just need to find help. You just need to find the right people that understand your situation. And everyone around me was so welcoming about it. I mean, my partner, like, my biggest fear, I guess, was that people would treat me differently. You know, whether that be, you know, hiding foods in the house or anything like that. That was my biggest fear. I didn't want that. And that's not what I received. As soon as I spoke about it and I had that conversation with my partner and my family, it was just so much overwhelming, like, support. But not in the sense that it was just like they were tiptoeing or stepping on eggshells. It was just overwhelming love and support. And that's all I needed, to know that, you know, I have that support. And now I just feel so free from it all. Like, it's just a thing of the past. And it was a big part of my past, of course, but, you know, something that no longer dictates who I am, for sure.
Beautiful. And for those who are looking for that video, correct me if I'm wrong, but that one was titled "This One's for Me," right?
Yeah.
Was it that one?
Yeah.
In August, that was.
Yeah.
This One's for Me, a raw conversation, which was funny.
Yeah.
I saw that when I was doing my homework, and I was like, hey, this is perfect.
Yeah.
A raw conversation. Yeah, I did watch that, and yeah, absolutely beautiful.
Huge.
For anyone who wants to see more, absolutely check out Adriana's page, and that video is pretty much what we're touching on here.
Yeah.
But it's her own conversation, so it's very, very inspiring and moving. And I did want to also mention that, so we speak of Tom Clark a lot. So on these podcasts, he comes up quite often.
He does. He's just like a little wizard. He just pops up at all times.
Yeah. And especially the groups and communities that he has created, where you can jump into, and as you explained, you spoke about something that you haven't been able to in the past, and because you're speaking to such like-minded and open-minded, incredible people that are on a similar journey of enlightenment and change, that's the group that you need to be around to tell your experiences and your goals to, because it's not that they keep you accountable, but because you've told people that you know understand what it is to make huge changes. Yeah. It's like, well, I've told them I'm going to do this. Like, we're all making changes ourselves, so I'm absolutely gonna, Yeah, it was like that community feeling. Like, if I did it again, I would let down myself, but I'd also let down 12 freaking incredible people as well. And I just couldn't do that, and I still can't do that. I'm still, like, 60DR is over for us, but still, to this day, like, not only would I let down myself, but, like, I just know that would hurt the group as well. It's like all of us, like, we all had to give up something that we wouldn't do in the highest version of ourselves, and I know each and every one of us is still killing that. You know what I mean? Like, that's an awesome community. To have that community is massive. Yeah, absolutely. As I said, thank you so much for touching on those subjects. It's, I understand how challenging it can be. I want to jump to your experiences with traveling, because you, in the past, obviously before we were in lockdown, you were a huge traveler, and a lot of that was solo traveling and doing things independently. Tell me about your relationship with and your at-homeness with Bali, because that's something that you've spoken about a lot.
Yeah, I have a really, really solid connection to Bali, in the sense that it just feels like home to me. I'm in love with the place, I'm in love with the people, and just the aura that it gives my body. So I've gone there solo 3 times, and I've gone with my partner Tom as well. And it's just a place of wholesome for me, and I just feel completely at peace when I'm there. And I think anyone that's gone to Bali knows just the way it makes you feel. And for me, it's what you make it as well. I mean, I know a lot of people will go there and it's like a party sort of vibe and all that stuff. For me, it's just finding my inner self. And when I travel solo, I don't know, I just never have a fear in the world. I mean, my parents do, for sure. But when I'm there, I just feel completely and utterly myself, and have the ability to just do a lot of inner work. I did a lot of like retreat sort of stuff. I just did a lot of yoga, did a lot of meditation and stuff like that. And just a place for me to really switch off, and switch on to myself, I guess, as well. So yeah, just infatuated with Bali.
Yeah. Do you feel like you're able to achieve that same sort of freedom here now with the sort of growth that you've experienced in the past?
Yeah, I think for me, I love traveling. I will always love traveling. But I think a lot of it came down to me wanting to escape as well. I worked a lot. Back then, I used to work in hospitality. I worked in hospitality for 7 years, and I just felt like I needed an escape. I was really good at hospitality, but it was very mentally and physically taxing as a whole. So I always felt like I needed that escape, and Bali was definitely that for me, or just traveling in general. Now, like, of course I want to travel, but I'm so infatuated with my life here that it no longer seems like I need to get away. I've gone on holidays. I recently just came back from Queensland, but that was just us getting away. It wasn't because I felt like my life here was so like draining that I needed it. So I definitely feel like I have the ability to just, uphold my life now, and I don't need it as an escape. Unfortunately, Bali is probably out the cards for God knows how long. But I feel sad about it, but I don't feel like it's going to, be imperative in my life as well. So, yeah.
So we had a quick little break there and
intermission
and a wardrobe change.
It's cold.
Yeah, right. So before we stopped for a second, we were talking about how you were in hospitality. We haven't even spoken about what you're doing now. So yeah, let's go there. What are you doing now? And when did that begin? Because that's kind of the big journey you've been on since all of that.
Yeah. So currently I am a personal trainer and health coach. And I was very broad with my niche prior to 6CDR, but we definitely honed that in. So I currently work with women who are learning to love themselves again, basically learning to love the relationship with their body, their mind, and especially food as well. So that's definitely my niche, and simply because I empathise with that and women who are going through that sort of self-loathing towards their body, and especially towards food as well. So that's definitely been more of a recent swap over. I was just more of I don't want to say generic PT before, but I was just, trying to find my feet. And I've been doing that since January this year. So I've been in the fitness industry working for 10 months now. So I pat myself on the back. I'm doing really well, and I'm so passionate about it. Like, I just am so in love with what I do, and that's simply because I cannot wait to see women realize how much they can love themselves and the relationship they can have with food, and watch that unfold is everything to me. So it's why I basically got into the industry, and to be honest, like, I've been working out for a long time now, and I've always been into fitness and my own journey, but I never really thought I could make a living out of it. Just from a monetary aspect, I always thought, as a personal trainer, it's just like a side thing. And that stems from me working in hospitality. So I worked in hospitality for 7 years. Wow. Yeah, a really long time. Ever since I could work, I've always been in like a hospitality sort of industry. And I worked my way up. I did I did the hard yards. I started, as a barista at the Crown Plaza in Adelaide, and worked my way up to restaurant manager, and then worked my way up to conferencing and events manager as well. So it was huge, and it was something that I was great at. But I felt like I was just doing to uphold the name of, restaurant manager or conferencing and events manager. And whilst I was good at it, it never felt like it really landed with me. And it was something that I loved telling people, and my family loved telling people, because who doesn't want to be the kid that's got the good job? Mm-hmm. And I saying that now, I'm like rolling my eyes because whatever. But yeah, it was something that never really landed with me or aligned to me. And it was something that, I was working 6 days a week, 14 hours a day, and then still trying to balance my fitness lifestyle as well. And that's when everything was just so intense and restrictive and full on for my life, when I was juggling that job as well. So I only not got rid of, but, left that job in December last year, when I, decided to pursue personal training and becoming a health coach. So it's been the best decision of my life. It was terrifying, to say the least, because that was my whole identity. I was Adriana, the restaurant manager, or Adriana, the conferencing and events manager, and, she had fitness on the side and she looked like she had it all down packed. But, lo and behold, I was crumbling on the inside, absolutely crumbling. My body was just consistently in fight or flight mode for a very long period of time.
Yeah, right. So, yeah, you mentioned you were kind of stuck with it because of the role or the name, kind of that role and name that everyone knew you had. Let's go to now. So you've spoken about how you've said in your own words, I don't want to be your personal trainer. I want to be your coach. Yeah. Let's kind of create contrast between the two. Yeah. And I'd love for you to speak to that and kind of explain why you prefer coach over personal trainer. Yeah, well, I guess it's a big one these days. I mean, personal trainer to me, what I always thought it was just taking someone through a workout. And, that's what I always thought that the job entailed. And it is for a personal trainer. But as a coach, we look a lot deeper. I have, my clients mean the absolute world to me. Their journeys mean the absolute world to me. And I can't wait for them to realize that they are so much more than just a workout. And as a coach, you look a little bit further as opposed to counting someone's reps. You look a little bit further as opposed to just putting someone through a gnarly workout and getting them to sweat. My focus is honestly so far from that. It's more, honestly, I'm working more towards that mindset space now. And it's really important to me because if you don't do the inner work, if you don't work from the inside out, you're never going to, reap the results that you want. And fat loss and all that sort of stuff, that body composition is a byproduct of doing the inner work first. If you don't get that right with your clients or as a whole, like if you're just on a journey, if you're not doing the inner work, you honestly, it won't emit on the outside. And that sounds really harsh, and a lot of people will go through a fat loss phase and haven't done the inner work, but that sustainability of it. So my biggest outlook is, sustainable results for my clients and doing the inner work and focusing on their mindset and how they feel about themselves. When they look at themselves, what do they say to themselves? What's the first initial words that come to mind? And trying to get them to stray away from the fact that a certain number on the scale is never going to make them happy. I think the biggest question I always ask my clients is, if you were your goal weight tomorrow, would you still be happy? Would you love your mindset around food? Would you love your relationship with your body still if you were that goal weight? And 9 times out of 10, it's a no, which just goes to show that inner work is so much more important than getting someone to a certain number. And just being on a journey with them, knowing that, yes, I'm there for accountability, and no, I'm not there to create a codependency, but having that person that understands and empathizes heavily with, I work with a lot of general population that are, just starting out in the gym or just starting their journey and stuff like that. And that's the people that I want to work with because, I've been there and I understand what it's like in that very, very beginning of it all. And yeah, just not so much holding their hand, but, coaxing them the right path, basically. So,
Yeah, that for me is the difference between, you know, a coach and a PT. And I feel like I'm not entitled to say it because I've been in the industry only 10 months, but then I'm also like, no, I ream coach. Like, I am a coach and I'm not a personal trainer because I've done the inner work myself. I further educated myself and I'm still further educating myself like every single day. So yeah, like I can differentiate the two. And there's people who have been in the industry for 5 or 6 years and they're still kind of just, I don't want to say plodding along, but just being that role of a PT.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess I feel a little bit iffy when I differentiate myself from a PT as a coach. But then I'm just like, nah, Adriana, like you do the work. I've done the work. So I can be a coach. I am a coach. So yeah.
Absolutely. And just the coach itself holds so much more. Yeah. Because you can have a coach within the gym, you can have a coach for your personal development, your spirituality. But yeah, personal trainer is very kind of homed in on that one understanding of it. Being you walk into a commercial gym and you pay $45 to $60 for a session that you absolutely could have done at home. So it absolutely makes sense. Coach holds so much more power, I think.
Absolutely.
And also your journey of becoming that coach and being that coach started long before you got that qualification. Like, what even is that? Especially now and what you see in the industry. People wouldn't even know. People don't know, but I have my diploma as well. I don't speak about it because, for one, when I see what is out there, and no disrespect, no, not at all. We're all where we are. Like, that's cool. But what I realized was I'm not really all that proud of it. It's not something I'm like, oh yes, like, yeah, I'm a PT. I got my qualification. Like, it's more so, I don't know. I thought that was what I was wanting to do as well until I saw how the industry kind of was, and I just accepted I'm not ready to try to step into that world and separate myself. And at that point in time, and I was a little bit younger, I just wasn't ready for that. And so absolutely, like, so much respect for people like yourself, and people like Dylan Taylor, everyone that was a part of the 60 days, all the people that are close to us, huge respect, and everyone else outside of that as well that is taking it to a level that's beyond just PT and what that holds. And I'm
really excited because I think, especially in Adelaide and I know further beyond, like Australia, that is becoming quite prominent, you know, and that should be the goal now, as opposed to being a PT. That should be the coach sort of like mentality. And that's going to change people's lives because you're looking so much further than just getting someone into a workout. You're looking at their relationship with themselves and their mentality and their spirituality, and that relationship is so important. Like, if you do not love yourself, you cannot admit that on the outside, and you cannot, accept love either. So, having coaches like Adelaide, we've got quite a few, and we're really lucky in that sense. There's it's prominent with us, but I think it's changing, and to see it change and see the industry that is so saturated, slowly changing, and people becoming more educated and working with their clients on a deeper level, is so good to see. It's so good to see, honestly.
I believe that it's on the way up as well. I have belief and I have faith that it's all, like, things are getting better. Like, I think they are. I think things are getting better.
They have to. They can't go backwards.
Exactly. There's not much further back that they can go. And there's a lot of really good examples of that, and initiators, like, even just everyone knows, like David Attenborough getting on Instagram.
Yeah.
I knew this from the get-go, but as soon as we saw that, it was like, people are going to start listening.
Mm-hmm.
People are going to start realizing that, yes, their individual actions and decisions do have an impact.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's huge.
Yeah. So
huge.
I believe that things are getting better. And
Yeah.
why not?
Yeah, of course.
Why not
of course.
believe it?
Even through the midst of a pandemic, like,
Yeah.
things are growing great. You know what I mean? And that's like, that's not selfish to say. I think that, you know, the world has come so far in terms of what we've gone through, personally or as a, like, collectively as a world. But yeah, I don't know. This year has been so full of growth for so many people. And it's kind of been forced. You've kind of been forced to grow because of everything that's going on. So yeah, I don't know. I'm not mad about it.
Yeah.
I love it.
I totally feel that. And I don't know, people might hear that and think that they might think like, oh yeah, you're in Adelaide, like things are all good, and obviously taking into account like all the very serious and unfortunate things that have happened quite recently around the world. It's also taking those things into account and having the belief that we're learning and
We're growing.
yeah, I think just having that belief about it is the best thing that you could possibly do. Like, yeah, we could sit here and be like, we could say like, oh yeah, we're very lucky, but you know, the rest of the world is suffering. Or we could say, we are extremely fortunate and we understand like what has been going on around the world, but we're learning, and we truly believe that we're going to get to a point where some great changes are made. Interesting. We come to so the differentiation between PT and coach. In 2018, you said that you were grinding hard during the week and even harder on the weekends. Was that the PT talking? Like what? Because when I see what you've gone through now, kind of accepting rest and relaxation. I'm not going to speak for you, but how does it, let's speak to that.
Yeah, I think when I look back at those, are they like my posts and stuff? Yeah, so that definitely comes down to my restrictive past or my all or nothing past. I had a very, very fixed all or nothing mindset back then, that grinding during the week and then grinding even harder on the weekend. And this is where that fight or flight mode would always set in. In terms of like my mentality and how I structured my days back then, it was basically I would do like an F45 class or something like that in the morning, which was like a high intensity class. I would then go to work and work anywhere between 12 to 14 hours on my feet all day in hospitality. And then after that, I would go to the gym and do like a solid weight session. So that was pretty much every single day, 7 days a week. And that saw just wreaked absolute havoc on my body because I was just too scared to rest. I was just so caught up in the fact that I needed to be go, go, go. I just needed to have this outlook that if I rested, I was weak. And this is how I maintained such a lean physique for such a long period of time. But I didn't realize that it was just my body screaming at me. It was like, Adriana, dude, settle down. And amongst all that, I was eating the bare minimal as well. I was probably eating anywhere between like 900 to 1,000 calories a day, 22,000 steps a day, and 2 workouts. And I actually said this recently to my partner. It's just like, what? Like, how does that even... And it's just so common as well. Like, there are so many people who are currently doing that, eating the bare minimal, working out 2 to 3 times a day. And, you know, they're the people I want to work with because I want to show them that rest and recovery is your best friend. And it's honestly taken me so long to realize that. It's probably this year, if anything. That once you rest and once you recover and once you give yourself time mentally to relax, that's when you start flourishing. That's when everything starts coming together for you. And I guess, like, if I were to speak to myself back in 2018 and say that, I would literally just laugh, because I was so caught up in that mentality that grind was everything, and that working out 7 days a week was like what I needed to sustain my current like body. But if anything, like, my body has relaxed and calmed down, and yes, I've put on body fat, and yes, I'm completely okay with it, but that came with recovery as well. With an eating disorder, I mean, I was ridiculously low weight, eating the bare minimal, striving for that lean, shredded physique at all times. Now I just want to be healthy. I just want my body to feel good, and I want to feel good, and I do feel good, and I can't wait to show the world that they can feel good too. You know, eating higher calories, you know, training 4 to 5 times per week when you feel good and when you feel optimal. Like, and it's slowly getting there. Like we just spoke about, like, it's changing, you know what I mean? Like that higher calorie vibe and you know, training, you know, smarter, not harder, and all that sort of stuff. We're getting there, but it's still extremely prominent, and I still see it quite frequently, especially with like a lot of new clients as well. So yeah, it's just, it's a world of change. 2018 Adriana was go big or go home, and 2020 Adriana is like, nah, I'm gonna chill.
How about 2019? Let's go to Feb 2019, and you were 3.5 weeks out of your first. Was that your first show? Is that right? Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Tell us briefly about that experience.
I think competing. I've done a few videos on these and a few posts and whatnot, but I don't think I've ever really spoken about how detrimental competing was to me. I really respect the sport, and I know obviously firsthand what it takes to get down to that physique, and the effort that you need to put in to get there as well. Unfortunately, if you're not in the right headspace, or you don't have a good relationship with yourself or food, competing is never ever going to help you. It's going to dig that hole 10 times deeper. And competing for me, I never even thought about it until I was approached by a coach, air quote coach, and basically stated that they wanted to put me on stage. And this was simply because I was already lean. I was already pretty much stage ready. I held that figure for a really long time. Just needed, and my prep was only 8 weeks long.
Wow.
Yeah. So I was, you know, I held that physique.
And that's not normal, so people understand.
No. Your prep should be around anywhere between 18 to 24 weeks. So I was pretty much stage lean and stage ready. I just needed to dial it in a little bit more and just change my training a little bit. So in hindsight, when someone's prep's supposed to be 18 to 24 weeks and you dial that into 8 weeks, you don't have enough time for that mindset to really switch on. It's very restrictive, and I was already restrictive. So, and this was, I still had my eating disorder heavily through this. And something I've never really spoken about is, and I feel not so much like a fraud, but I feel, I do a little bit. It's quite, I felt very dishonest with myself and a lot of people, is that through my prep, that small 8 weeks, I still had my binging excessively and purging excessively, probably 3 to 4 times per week. And it just felt awful because I was in such a restrictive stage and I was eating so minimal, but then I would just have these, obviously because it was so restrictive, these binge and purge episodes so frequently, that when I got on that stage, whilst I looked like a literal string bean, I just felt like a fraud because these other girls around me had worked so hard for 18 to 24 weeks plus. I had a girl next to me on stage who'd done her prep for 32 weeks. And I just felt like in the worst headspace, and it was just, Look, I have no regrets about it. I don't regret a single thing in this world, but it's definitely something that, it's not that I'm not proud of it, but it's not something I show to light much. Yes, it's on my Instagram. Yes, it's, I've done it, but it's not something I speak much about because it's not a period of my life that I feel most proud of, for sure. Coming out of it, I didn't have my coach. I was basically just left in the dark. And for anyone that's competed or understands competing well, that's your most, that's the scariest part, that reverse diet and not knowing what's going on with your calories or your meals and all that sort of stuff. So coming out of it, I went straight back into my restrictiveness, eating bare minimal, training 2 to 3 times per day. I maintained that lean physique for a substantial amount of time still, until inevitably I started eating normally, and started putting on weight, which is completely normal, but in my head, my restrictive mindset, it was just the worst thing in the world. And that's when I would dare say my eating disorder got pretty bad, and quite prominent, and a lot more excessive as well. And that, took over, and that's why 2018, 2019, and, the most part of 2020 as well was really awful, and really challenging in terms of the eating disorder. So, I can't stress enough. I mean, I don't work with athletes or people who are getting on stage or anything like that, just because it's not my niche. But it's something that just needs to be so prominent and installed in people's minds, that if you're not in any relationship with yourself or food or mindset, competing is never going to be the answer for you, unfortunately. And it honestly, I came second and third, but the amount I lost in comparison to a small plastic trophy is so unworth it. It's so not worth it at all. Yeah, massive.
Yep. I'm so glad you shed some light on that. That's going to be great information for anyone. That's awesome. So you did touch on it briefly, but what we put a pin in before was the difference between having, say, 900 to 1,000 calories per day, training twice a day for 7 days a week, versus 2,000 to 2,500 calories per day, training once a day for 5 days a week. So you've experienced both, and can you touch on that a little bit more? Yeah.
So I was terrified of eating more, and it's very common. It's extremely common. But the fact of the matter is that, your body, I didn't realize it at the time, but my body was literally screaming out to me. And yes, I upholded a really lean physique, but my body, I think the biggest thing was that I lost my menstrual cycle for 5 years, and I'm still constantly battling. I'm working on it, and I'm still, working with a naturopath and doctors to try and get that back. But I just let it go. I let it slide. I wasn't feeding my body for my output especially, but even just as a whole, as a human. You shouldn't be eating 900 to 1,000 calories. That's the bare minimal. And increasing my calories, it took a really long period of time. And it was nothing that happened overnight. And sometimes, I'm okay now, but to the better half of this year, it was still something that I was trying to get my head around, until I started increasing my calories and started eating more, and inevitably just started feeling really good, in terms of working out, in terms of just energy, in terms of libido, and in terms of all this sort of stuff, my mood, everything. Just completely changed. And until you start consecutively eating more and training less, which to a lot of people sounds really strange, because it's very prominent in this world to see eat less, do more. And that's just a huge sort of stigma that a lot of people have. But really trying to, contrast that with basically eat more, do less. And it just doesn't land with a lot of people, but once they start seeing those results, and that's what it took for me, is start seeing how good I can feel, how ample I can feel, and how less restrictive I can feel. And it came a lot with, my relationship with my current partner, is that, I was in the first half of it terrified. Every time we went out for dinner, I was I was the girl who just got a chicken salad and no dressing and all that sort of stuff. And I'm not saying I don't eat that now, because, you know, I have goals, and sometimes, you know, I will get a chicken salad, but I'll also go out and get a pizza or a burger or whatever I feel like. And I never, ever would have done that before. And that freedom, just in that, to go out and order what you want off a menu and not worry about the macros, or if this is going to fit, or if I'm going to blow out from this, or this is going to cause a binge episode. Because a lot of the times it did. If I went out, I would have that mentality of, I blew it, it's over. And that's a very, very common theme for people who have binge eating disorders, or just eating disorders, or disorderly eating in general, is that if they eat one bad meal, that's it. Like, KO. You've outdone everything that you've ever worked for, and then it's just the episode that leads after that.
There's repercussions after saying I blew it. Yeah,
basically. So I just think that the freedom that I have now is something that I want to share with the world. That relationship with food is huge. Like, you don't need to be fearful, and it's easier said than done. I completely resonate with that, but you no longer need to fear anything. Like, we're human. Like, we're on this earth to enjoy it, whether it be the food, the company, anything. We're here to enjoy it. And if you lead a life that's so restrictive and so just like ridiculed with fear, it's just not a life that you want to live for long. And that's definitely, you know, I've lived that, and I've been there. And from where I am now, you know, up 10 kilos and feeling, you know, great. Like, who cares? You know, I love myself. I can honestly just sit here and say, yes, I'm 10 kilos up from March last year, but who cares? That's more of me to love.
Yeah, I love that. That's so good. That's what I live by anyway.
Yeah, hell yeah.
That's so good. I think that is a beautiful way to come to a close, but just a few rapid fire questions. So in 2019, you quoted Troy Bolton in saying, "Get your head in the game." What's a quote that you hold close to your heart now?
Oh God, I know it. It's, "This too shall pass."
And why?
Because this too shall pass. Like, it is something that, whatever you're going through in terms of your life or your mindset or whatever it is, it may be rough right now, but there's always brighter days. There is always going to be a brighter day. And I know in the moment it can be really, really hard to see that or understand that, but there is always a better outcome. And it's not something that just happens. You do have to work towards it. You do have to do inner work, but whatever you're going through right now is just in the moment. In the grand scheme of things, like, your life is so freaking beautiful. You live such a glorious life. Like, we are so blessed. I'm looking out right now and I'm like, all I see is blessed. All I feel is blessed. And it can seem quite wishy-washy sometimes when you hear that, especially if you're going through a pretty dark place. But I want to be that light, you know what I mean? Like, I want to be that light that people can see that there is better days. You know, I've gone through the ringer. I've been there. But I'm on top of it now, you know?
And that's why you have that contrast.
Yeah.
Because you have been there. You have seen those dark places.
Yeah.
And it's from people like you that we need to hear we are so blessed and really take that on. Yeah. Because, you've seen both sides. You've seen the dark and you've seen the light, and you
sometimes
understand.
You need to, though, as well, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I wouldn't be the coach I am now if I hadn't seen those.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Sure.
100%. What advice would you give to your 20-year-old self?
I just want to hug her. Honestly, I would honestly just tell her much the same, is that there will be better days. And this eating disorder especially doesn't define you. No one thinks it's dirty or deceiving, and you're going to make a fucking means of yourself. Like, you're going to make it. Like, you need to put in the work, but you're going to make it. You know, those darker days saw many, many even suicidal thoughts for a long period of time. So from where she was to where I am now, just absolutely reaming and loving life. Yeah. I just want to hug her and tell her, like, we got this.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. What's something that you believe that others think is insane? If anything, we can come back to it.
Probably that, like, I don't know, the weirdest one, the first one that comes to my head is that cottage cheese should just be eaten with a spoon. I don't know why, but I'm just absolutely obsessed with cottage cheese and just eating it straight from the
I'm certain that there'd be a lot of people that don't think that's insane. But I love it. That's good. What obsessions outside of work do you have?
Oh, that's a really good one. I guess it's a little bit more challenging to say my passion is my work. It wasn't for a long period of time when hospitality was prominent, but I would dare say just enjoying. I'm such a homebody.
What's a weird obsession you have?
Weird obsession? I love doing housework.
Okay, that's weird. Yeah.
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 I love it. It's like therapy to me. Like, my partner was just like, he's like, oh, we'll do it together. And I was like, no, man, I got this. Like, I'm good. Like, I really, like, I don't know. It's just, yeah. And it stems from my mum. Like, she was an OCD. She was always in my bedroom at like 6 a.m. like vacuuming. So I guess it kind of stems from that. But yeah, it's just so therapeutic to me. Like, a clean, like, I'm very big on a clean environment, and my environment dictates how I feel. So I'm very, very big with making sure my environment. So yeah, therapeutic to me. I love it.
Yeah.
How good.
Yeah, no, you know what? That does make sense. And and sometimes you just get kind of, I don't know, you start and then you're like, this is sick. And you're just like, you're cleaning and like for the whole day.
Chuck some jams on, you're good to go.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm there for it.
Yeah. All right, wicked. So to finish off, is there any ask or request for the audience or parting words from yourself, Adriana?
I would dare say, as amongst like everything that we've spoken about, is that if you are going through a rough period, it doesn't have to be an eating disorder or anything like that, but knowing that there is a light, and reaching out to those directly around you. I think once you have the ability to speak out to the ones that you love or your immediate family or people that are directly around you every single day, once they understand what you're going through, it's a huge weight off your shoulders. And it can be really daunting in the beginning to really let that out to those around you, because that fear of judgment is huge. But once you realize that these people are here for you and there's people that love you and they understand what you're going through, whatever darkness that you're currently going through, it can be, lifted definitely. So if there's, definitely one piece of information I want to admit to the world is that, speak up to the ones that, mean the most, because they want to help you, they want to support you, and there's better days.
Mm-hmm. Is that your request as well, in a way?
Yeah, I think so. I think
that's an awesome request.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. And also, we need to understand, and from a young age, we need to be taught that we truly are. This may sound cliche because it's thrown around so much, but my biggest realization over the past few years was we literally can only love people as much as we love ourselves. And I actually had a very Christian, you know who I'm talking about, but a very special conversation with someone who was hesitant about coming to the retreat, the event, the Raw Tribal Retreat, because he felt as though him doing that was a selfish thing, and that it would burden his family in a way, and that him doing that would mean that he wouldn't be able to provide financial support for his children. Anyway, we spoke about how, because his biggest thing was he wants to be the best dad ever, right? But he wasn't loving himself. And having this conversation just kind of, I think it turned around a lot for him, but I helped him understand the fact that he will love his kids as much as he loves himself.
Yeah.
And he thought that he loved them immensely then, but to realize and know that he had so much more to give, because he had so much more to give to himself.
Yeah.
That just turned things around for him. So that kind of speaks to what you ended with there in your request. But yeah.
I love that, Ollie. Oh,
Yeah.
I'm so excited for your raw retreat, by the way. My God.
Yep.
Honest to God.
I can't wait. It's going to be incredible.
Heck yeah.
All right, sweet. Well, we will finish there. Once again, thank you so much for doing this.
No, thank you for having me on. It's honestly such a privilege. Like, I think, like, what you do, and I, obviously through 60DR, and I didn't know you previously, but yeah, you're a shining light, Ollie. I can't wait
Adriana.
to watch you shine.
Oh, thank you. And you too. And is there anything else coming for you? What's next? Where can people find you? Let us know.
So I am on socials on Instagram as Adriana_Verdino. It's just, that's just me being my real raw self. It is like the same as my coaching page, so there as a whole. But yeah, I just want to admit to the world, and I do through like my posts, and I know that a lot of people resonate. But yeah, that's just where I'm at, and that's where I want to be, and I just want to touch people's hearts and people's lights, and that's just where I'm at. Yeah.
Adriana, so much love.
Thanks, Ollie.
All right, thanks guys. Peace.